Welcome, film fans. It's time for another episode of For Your Reconsideration, the film podcast which checks out the unwanted, misunderstood, or frankly smelly cinematic strays of yesteryear to see whether they, on second viewing, deserve to find a happy forever home, nuzzled warmly in our own much-loved movie collections, pampered with apologies for the ills of the past. My name's Rob, and as always, I'm here with my fellow film fans, Simon and James. Good evening, gents.
You can tell you're the writer of the group.
This is my highlight now.
Kid out.
I spend more time on these intros than my own actual books. How are we getting on?
I'm wonderful, thanks.
Good
Rob,
stuff,
wonderful.
good stuff. You, James?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Nice. After last week's Frank debacle in Click, we moved swiftly on, but what have you guys been watching this week?
I watched a film called Under the Silver Lake this week, which, aside from some nice cinematography and a lovely score, I found to be masturbatory and vapid attempt at millennial noir.
Masturbatory?
I did not like it at all. Which is a shame, because I was really looking forward to it. It's the guy who directed It Follows, which I think is one of the best slasher films in the last few years.
Yeah, it was brilliant, that film.
So I was really looking forward to this, and he did not deliver. And I felt disappointed. I thought he was going to be one of my guys moving forward, but a lot of people seem to be drawing comparisons with Richard Kelly and Southland Tales in a lot of the reviews that I've read.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which unfortunately I feel is quite accurate. But hopefully it's just a misstep, and David Robert Mitchell will be back on form next time he's out. So
Interesting.
Also, just a quick shout out. I don't know if you guys have actually watched this series, but the Bill Hader hitman who wants to become an actor comedy drama is back this week on Sky Atlantic. I think you both get a kick out of it, so I'm giving that a recommendation. The first series is excellent, and I think you can get it on the old box set
Nice.
at the moment.
I have not heard of that. I like Bill Hader. I didn't like him in Superbad, and I was like, oh, this guy again. But then the more I see him in stuff, the more I'm like, no, he's good.
He's really good. He's excellent in this. He's really good. He plays sort of the straight man while all the craziness goes on behind him, and he doesn't want to be a hitman anymore. And he just stumbles on this acting class where he can sort of work out a lot of his complex emotions around murdering people.
What's that called again?
It's called Barry.
I will check that out.
Yeah, it's good.
Unfortunately, I've not had the chance to go to the cinema this week. And I've shockingly not seen any films on VOD either, which is awful form. Terribly sorry.
Is that you, Rob?
You ain't even got to me yet.
So I've been trudging through season 2 of Westworld and come to the end of that. Really love Westworld. It's amazing. But I just finished Ricky Gervais's new series, Afterlife, on Netflix.
How's that?
I honestly think it's wonderful. I think it's absolutely brilliant. We discussed quite a lot last week. Well, me and you, Rob, did. It was James didn't cry at Click last week. But man, this programme had me in tears about 3 times an episode. It's basically Gervais just being like a grumpy old man, which is probably why I relate to him so much, because I am like an 85-year-old in a 33-year-old's body. Honestly, it's so lovely. I think Gervais is really good when it comes to like writing from the heart, and I think this is just it's. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful program. It's really, really nice. Yeah, definitely recommend it. He gets a lot of stick nowadays, Gervais, but
yeah,
if you want to be quite, heart-warmed, this is the series for you. 6 episodes, 30 minutes a pop. It's lovely. It's really nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's on my list. I might start it this weekend on the strength of that recommendation, Simon.
Yeah,
I loved it. Really good.
Some good recommendations here, boys. Really good recommendations. I'm afraid I'm going to have to say that I've managed to watch nothing this week apart from the film in question. But I did commit what was very nearly a terrible parental faux pas of introducing my 3-year-old and 1-year-old to Jurassic Park while my wife was out. I did say to him, this isn't real. I decided to fast forward the first hour because the attention span's not going to go for that. And I went straight in with the goat getting murdered. By the time the lawyer's being ripped off the toilet, my 3-year-old's turning to me saying, "You sure this is not real?" You're quite sure this is not real? And my 1-year-old is loving it, like, Dinosaur! So yeah, we watched that. We watched that now, that sequence, every morning over a bowl of Cheerios. So major success. A proud moment in our house. I think you'd have to agree.
Superb.
What did you? I think you text me saying the DNA test is not required.
Yes. Yeah, Jurassic Park is my favourite film, dear listener. James, it is your pick this week, isn't it?
Oh God, I've prepared nothing. No, I'm on it. I'm on it. Right. Bit of a change up this week as we are taking a look back at a film called Predestination from 2014. And it's a change up for the pod in the sense that this is an extremely well reviewed film. 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's verified fresh. So we're bending the rules a little bit to get this one in, but it's our podcast and we'll do what we want, I suppose.
Well, I'd never heard of this film before you mentioned it, so I think the fact it's quite a hidden film makes it qualify alone, but I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I'm not usually the facts guy on this, as we've learned very quickly how unreliable my facts tend to be. But I did actually look into what money this made, and it was obscenely low, wasn't it? Especially in America. Yeah. And that does therefore qualify for our criteria, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it probably had a simultaneous VOD and disc release with a limited cinema run. But as Simon sort of said, I don't know anyone else within... Well, I didn't know that you two guys hadn't heard of it.
No chance. No chance.
Well, I mean, that's not wholly surprising in your case, Rob.
Sick burn.
Guilty as charged.
But yeah, this is... I remember... do you remember Love Film, where you used to get a disc through the post every now and again?
Oh, lovely, yeah.
I really miss Love Film.
So do I, because you could find little gems like this. You just go on the new releases, and if it had like a bit of box art or poster that you were interested in, put it on your list, and they'll get around to sending you it at some point.
Yeah, and you didn't spend 2 hours perusing through a nonsense of film posters to pick a film.
Exactly.
Spend 3 hours just picking a film, and then you go to bed because watch Friends.
Yeah. I can't be bothered with this. I'm just going to watch The Office again.
That's just exactly what happens. Yeah, I love it because Love Film told me what to watch. I wasn't crippled with choice paralysis.
Yeah, so this one, it came through on disc, and I was up for... I watched it with quite low expectations, and I never do this. I got to the end, I was like, Jesus, I need to unpack that, and I literally started it again and watched it from the beginning, like in a
seriously,
back to back. Yeah, to try and decipher it. So what I want to get across for the listener is we're going to have to get this in early this week.
We do.
In order to talk about this film in any kind of detail, we're going to have to spoil every revelation within it.
And there are a few.
So if the trailer piques your interest, please go and watch the film, lest we ruin the whole thing for you. So Simon, roll the trailer.
What if I could put him in front of you? The man that ruined your life. Would you kill him? By the time you listen to this, 7 years will have passed. Here you are, at the beginning of your new life. It can be overwhelming, knowing the future.
So, what, you're a cop?
I'm a temporal agent. We prevent crime before it takes place.
What is it?
It's a time machine. Don't ever exceed the jump limit. It can be problematic. If you ever want to stop the Fizzle Bomber, you'll never get another chance. Time, it catches up with us all. You can do this.
What are you saying? What's that got to do with me?
You're the only one given to the world through a paradox. You must lay the seeds for the future.
I know where I come from, but where do all you zombies come from? What if I could put him in front of you? Would you kill him?
Right, so Ethan Hawke is his own mother and father in this movie. Discuss.
I'm glad you got the spoiler warning out of the way, because that was just the whole film in a line. Wow.
Where do you even begin? I mean, I'm glad we don't have to keep anything back and we can just go straight in with the discussion.
Yeah.
I'm going to say straight away that I really enjoyed it and it exceeded expectations by a long way.
Same.
Oh, great.
I'm almost annoyed that the poster and I read the log line of it before I watched it, because I felt it would have been even better if I had not known at all of the time travel. I think it would have been way better to, it just looks like a story of someone to a barkeep.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the barkeep turns around and goes, well, riddle me this. And then this whole world explodes of time travel.
I think possibly they wanted to maybe sell it as a thriller more than it is, because that first 45 minutes is literally just a discussion between Ethan Hawke's character, the barkeep, and the unmarried mother, played by Sarah Snook.
Yeah.
And it's interspersed with flashbacks to her childhood and growing up and her journey to the bar, essentially.
Where she's a man. We must add, she's a man by this point.
Yes.
I thought that was Dane DeHaan.
Well, I mean, I don't even know where to start with this.
Yeah, where do you start?
There is no beginning. It's a time loop.
Do you start at the film? Do you start at the start of the timeline of the film? Yeah, it's hard to know where to start.
It is. I mean, I'm going to start with, I didn't know it was not a male actor in the bar. I think Ethan Hawke was watchable from the very first minute, so I was invested in whatever he was doing. I always find him really watchable anyway. So
yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah,
he is really good, and he brings a sort of grace and gravitas to this that I really liked. So yeah, I was in. I didn't know this was a female playing a male. I thought it was the actor Dane DeHaan for the start of this.
Not a Leonardo DiCaprio lookalike.
No, but that's a testament to Sarah Snook's performance, isn't it?
She is incredible.
She is fantastic.
She's outstanding, in this film. She really is outstanding.
How is she not a massive movie star?
I have no idea. Like
she's worked
brilliant.
regularly since this. Like I'm just looking through her filmography now. So she works with the directors again, the Spearigs, on a haunted house film with Helen Mirren called Winchester. She's in a Black Mirror episode, and she's also in Succession, which is a critically acclaimed show on HBO, which I haven't seen. But this is an unbelievable performance.
It's very good.
Oh, it is, yeah. But it goes above and beyond in every single aspect you could ask for as well.
Yeah, I mean, what do we think of the makeup? Like, I thought the makeup was fantastic.
It is. I hadn't got a clue that it, again, I had no idea it wasn't. In this instance, I had no idea that it wasn't a guy, but further on, like right the way through the film, the effects were excellent, and there was a subtlety to the effects that I really liked as well. The time travel effect, Si, you mentioned last week about in Click, the subtleness when Hasselhoff gets hit in the face. There's a subtleness here where we've not gone overboard, but we've really given the impression that time travel has happened.
Yeah, no, I really love how understated a lot of it is. I mean, it's quite obvious that a lot of it is down to budget.
Yeah.
But they don't have to make the most out of the cash they've got.
Yeah.
What would you guys say the budget on this film is?
I don't know. I mean, looking at it like that, 10 million, yeah.
It's 5.6 million Australian dollars.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Because I noticed, it was like off the bat, it comes up with it's funded by Australian production companies, and the actors in it, Sarah Snook's Australian, and then you've got that guy who looks like Ben Mendelsohn but isn't Ben Mendelsohn.
Noah Taylor, Captain Exposition.
Yes, yeah. Something needs explaining, which happens quite a lot. We'll bring in Noah Taylor quickly.
Yeah, so he's Australian, but I just loved how they really pushed their budget. Half the film is set in the bar. One set for 45 minutes of a film is quite economical, really. And the way that bar is lit.
It's super, isn't it?
There's like 2 extras in the bar as well. Yeah, it's all really good. And the time machine itself, it's just a violin case with like a security lock on it.
With a bike lock.
Let's not overthink it. We could spend all our budget on a fancy time machine and fancy effects to do that time travel, to take it back down to what you were saying, Rob. But it reminded me of the time travel bit. Reminded me of, I think it's in Thor Ragnarok when Chris Hemsworth is talking to Doctor Strange. Sorry, Thor's talking to Doctor Strange, and it just keeps cutting in and around the place where Doctor Strange is. And the way they did it was just a sound effect and a straight cut. And Chris Hemsworth just jolted where he was. And they cut. And you watch it back and you'll be amazed that there is no effects whatsoever. It's just him moving in real life.
Ah, that's cool. I mean, to watch it back, I'll have to watch it in the first place.
Oh, well, okay. I think sometimes simple is best, and that certainly works.
And I think that's a real... So this is actually based on a short story, and from what I understand, it's quite a faithful adaptation. So it's a short story called All You Zombies by Robert A. Heinlein. All they've added to it is the Fizzle Bomber subplot, so the rest of it is pretty faithful. Yeah. So I assume the violin case as a time travel device is from the source material. And to be honest with you, right, time travel, not to burst anybody's bubble, time travel is not possible. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So what is the point in spending loads of time explaining how it works in the first place? He just goes to her when he goes to the unmarried mother. When he shows him down to the cellar, he goes, "This is a time machine." And you just go, "Right, cool, done." That's it.
Yeah. And we don't open it up and we have a look inside and see all the little, the cool whizzy things going around. We don't do any of that stuff. Yeah. We don't complicate anything.
We don't have to fill it with rubbish.
Cool.
Like a bastard.
I think,
you don't need to piss off some Colombians or whatever.
On the topic of this, the source material, All You Zombies, it was written in one day in 1958.
Yeah.
58. How ahead of its time is this? It's unbelievable.
Mate, a lot of good sci-fi is like, you only have to, War of the Worlds is like way ahead of its time as well, and The Time Machine as well ahead of its time. I loved the trust in the audience that they were just like, let's not get bogged down in explaining the nature of time travel. People know what it is by now. Everyone's seen Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3, so we don't need to explain it anymore. And they just like, it's like that first 5 minutes set up, and then we're into that conversation in the bar.
Yeah.
And then we can sort of recover then, and we just listen to a nice story, and then it gets quite heavy in terms of trying to keep track of the time travel elements of it. But I really like the trust to believe that the audience are smart enough to understand it. And yeah, I thought they did that really well.
Yeah, I think that the opening 45 minutes, like we've all said, in the bar telling Jane's story through flashbacks on her way to and including her time in the early years of her gender reassignment, I thought was exceptionally sensitively handled. It was really, really, really well done. And if you consider as well that this story was from 1958. It's ahead of its time in its handling, the story itself.
Yeah.
I mean, how ambitious in 1958 to even attempt to write a story like this. I mean, gender reassignment, I don't know where gender reassignment was in the late 50s. But I found the whole conceit really charming. And then, this is all before we get to the real head tilt stuff of what happens later on.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's almost like two movies in one. So you have this quite heartfelt story about this. So Jane's story starts as she's a young baby and she's abandoned at an orphanage.
The cutest baby I've ever seen on film, by the way.
Yeah, she's cute.
Yeah.
Such a cute baby.
Granted.
And then basically she grows up never really experiencing any love, and she hardens herself and becomes good at fighting, and she's able to look after herself, but she's incredibly smart with it as well. And she wants to go into space, doesn't she? She wants to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
So she grows up and basically she joins the space program because there are no such thing as female astronauts, where she's going to be basically shagging astronauts. That's the whole thing, isn't it? That program that she joins.
Yeah, it's to keep them relaxed and to keep them serviced. Horrible expression.
So they're not blowing their jizz out the airlock.
You didn't see that in Moonraker. Well, you nearly did, actually. You nearly did.
Oh my!
He's a tempting re-entry, sir. Yeah, can we cut this, please?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah, so she joins that. She's like the top candidate, isn't she? Much more capable than the other women who've joined that. And then at some point she gets into a fight with one of the other candidates, and she has to go for some medical tests, and all of a sudden she's booted from the programme.
Yeah.
And it's not explained to us at that stage why she's being booted out.
I mean, you have a fair idea, because by this point you are guessing that the unmarried mother is actually
yes, well, we know that because we're watching it in flashback, aren't we? Yeah, sorry, I should...
Oh, yeah, it's actually explicitly told, isn't it? Do you want to know the story?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Sorry, we're being idiots. We're making this even more complicated.
This was always going to be a risk talking about this, though, because, like you say, the expression, there's so much to unpack. There is so much to unpack here.
I mean, we haven't even talked about the prologue where some dude is like, just has a shootout with another random dude in like a basement and gets his head set on fire.
Yeah. Do you remember the film? Do you remember the Alec Baldwin film, The Shadow?
I remember watching it as a kid. I can't remember much else about it, though.
That opening sequence took me straight back to be however old I was watching The Shadow, because it was just, it looked exactly like that. It was the same lighting, it was the same sort of sets, and the fight. It was just like, fucking hell, this is The Shadow. Such a bizarre film to be like, oh, remember that one?
Taken back to
an obscure comic book adaptation.
Yeah, it's got sort of that classic Hollywood look, hasn't it?
Yeah, and the prosthetics.
Yeah,
prosthetics at the start are grisly.
Oh, they're excellent, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, great. Marvellous.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing, you don't even see anybody's face until somebody's is melting off. Like, that's how the film ends.
Yeah, that's true, true. And he looks a lot like Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. Padme, where is Padme?
You were the chosen one!
2 films, this and that don't really have a lot in common apart from
people getting burnt to death. Spoilers for Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, yeah, spoilers. So we come back from that, and I know we kind of jump back in time, which is relevant for this film, I guess. Or have we gone forward in time?
I'm not sure where we are. Oh, God, I've gone cross-eyed.
You've got that person who's had their face melted, and they've had surgery, and the bandages come off, and it's Ethan Hawke.
Which you'd be happy with that, wouldn't you? To be fair.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'd be all right with that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we briefly touched on Ethan Hawke. I kind of don't get Ethan Hawke. He's such a strange entity as an actor, because he's in a lot of stuff, but he loves a low-budget film.
He's got such an incredibly eclectic career. So he's worked with these directors before on a vampire film called
Daybreakers. I'd heard of that. Yeah. I had heard of that. I didn't know it was the same directors, but I had heard of that. I hadn't heard of this one. But yeah, he's in so many like little low-budget films, and some of them do sort of cross that threshold into the mainstream, like that first Reformed last year with Paul Schrader. That kind of broke into mainstream discussion a bit. It didn't get up for any Oscar nominations, even though I heard...
Oh, he was robbed. Absolutely robbed.
Haven't seen it yet, but I've heard from so many people that he is exceptional in that film.
Not only should he be nominated, he should have won. Like, he was superb. Like, and to not even get the nod is, fuck off, Oscars.
Yeah, it's just come on Now TV, I think, so I do need to check that out. But like, we're looking at his movies in recent years, like with the exception of like The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
And maybe like the horror franchises like Sinister, and he was in the first Purge film, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
He almost exclusively works for independent filmmakers. And
yeah.
You know, even films like Boyhood is an art house film.
Yeah.
You know, it was a big film, it was a big popular film, but it is an art house film. And he's had quite a resurgence recently, I think.
He's always been good. One. He's always been. Have you ever seen him be bad in anything?
Oh, he's great.
I've never seen him be bad in anything. I think. Do you remember one? I don't think it was his first film. It wasn't his first film for sure. Tape.
The Richard Linklater film,
one. Yeah. Now, for me, that was like. It was shot on a camera that any one of us could have owned back in the early 2000s. And I always looked at that as like, no, I always wondered what the difference was. Why do other films look differently, even though they're shot on the same kind of stuff that we've got? You know, why do they always feel different? Why can I never get it to look and feel like that? And it was because I think one was obviously the lighting was another thing. You know, if you lit well, it went a long way. But the other was the caliber of acting. And Hawke, especially, I thought in that film, was so good that it took that film and it made it feel box office, despite it was made with peanuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's got Uma Thurman in as well.
It has,
who he was married to at the time. So that's a slept-on film, definitely. I mean, he's got such an eclectic career, and I imagine like in the 90s when he sort of burst onto the scene, he's a good-looking dude.
Oh yeah,
I imagine that his agent at the time would have been trying to push him like to go and be heartthrobs and in rom-coms, leaning against his co-stars on the posters for the latest romantic comedy.
Leaning against Adam Sandler, ready to...
Yeah. But he's just not done that. He'll do the odd big-budget film, so he did a remake of Assault on Precinct 13, which is... It's okay as remakes go. It's yeah.
The original, for me, is so perfect.
Oh, it's superb, yeah. I mean, yeah.
The remake added in a bit of an unnecessary twist, which the original didn't have. Yeah, it's a good remake.
It's fine, yeah. And then obviously Training Day as well, like with Denzel. He's amazing. Fantastic in that movie. Better than Denzel, I would say, which is a bit controversial.
I think Training Day as well was sort of originally intended as a low-budget flick, what just transcended into mainstream because of Denzel.
Yeah, every now and again
you
get
not
that,
because of Ethan Hawke necessarily. He kind of got overshadowed by Denzel, who, to be perfectly honest, I don't think is as good as the accolades suggest in that film.
No, he's been better in other stuff that he didn't win for. It's like, we didn't give it in for this, so we better give it in for this one, basically.
Yeah. Kind of like Scorsese winning an Oscar for The Departed and not for any of the other amazing movies that he'd done. The Departed is brilliant, by the way.
Oh, it is great. Oh, yeah, it's really great, yeah.
Cool. We've talked about, obviously, the main acting players in this one. What about the directors? We mentioned Daybreakers. I have to be honest, I'm not familiar with their body of work at all.
No, wrong.
Yeah, so they're a pair of identical twin brothers who direct movies together. They've got an advertising background, which I think sort of shows in the film because they're very visually proficient.
There's a definite slickness, isn't there, to it?
Yeah, and they don't rely too heavily on dialogue. There's not a lot of dialogue in this. Even when they're going through exposition, they're shooting around, particularly when they go back in time for in the first instance, and he's getting like Ethan Hawke's like getting changed while he's explaining to the unmarried mother. That's her character name as well. It's not a slur.
Yes.
They're sort of whizzing around the room and while he's getting changed into clothes of the era. So yeah, I think they're quite slick in that sense. So they made the film Daybreakers in 2010, which also starred Ethan Hawke, which I didn't love, but it's pretty interesting. It's got a distinct visual style and gallons of blood.
Is it the one where the vampires are like dying out and Ethan Hawke's trying to find a cure?
It's quite an interesting. It's quite an interesting twist on it. It's not wholly successful, but it's interesting enough, definitely. And then they went on and they've directed the Saw reboot, Jigsaw, which I won't be watching. And then the aforementioned Winchester with Helen Mirren and Sarah Snook again. And that didn't get very good reviews, but on the strength of this film, I'd probably check that out.
Yep.
Also, Peter Spierig composed a score for this one.
Oh, wow. So, multi-talented dudes.
Yeah, and they always use the same cinematographer as well, and a few of the effects guys they've carried over from projects as well. So
nice,
cool,
nice.
No, I really like the look of it. As I touched on earlier, the fight. I'm amazed at $5 million budget for this. I think that's they've
absolutely
really pushed as much. I'm sure they called in a lot of favors for that one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but doesn't it just tell you that the strength of story can sometimes overlook all sorts of budgetary limitations at times if you do things right? Story actually can be more important than money at times in cinema. It always should be anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were going to say, sorry, we weren't at all, but release date, 2014, is that right?
It's either 14 or 15, depending on the territory.
Right. So, and because we were saying it probably went direct to video, like, it's very hard to say what came out, to give it a bit of context with what it came out alongside. It's hard to say that, but what did it make? What was its box office? What facts have we got?
It's saying here is 4.3 million worldwide, so under the 5.6, but it's probably been pre-sold everywhere, so I didn't have to track this down in order to watch it. It's always on Film 4 in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So I recorded it off there.
Cool.
So it's probably been pre-sold to Film 4 equivalents all across the world.
Yeah.
For so it makes its budget back on that.
Yeah.
With someone like Ethan Hawke in the lead role,
he
will carry a certain amount of cachet in international markets where they can sell the film there, and then they just rely. I imagine that it did perfectly fine on DVD.
But it surprises me, like, I would have thought it would have reached cult status, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm quite surprised. I haven't heard of it before.
Yeah, especially if it's based on a 1958 sci-fi short story. That is the kind of currency that usually gets picked up as attracting cult status, isn't it?
Yeah, and as we said, the critical reception is unanimous, not unanimous, but 84% on Rotten Tomatoes is not to be sniffed at, is it, really?
Not at all. Is that critics, not audience?
It's 75% on audience.
We can expand on the reviews, I think. So, as you say, James, 84% Rotten Tomatoes critical, 75 audience, which you just said. So, critical slightly higher. Metacritic is a different story. 69
really?
out of 100 on Metacritic. So not as good on there critically. 8 out of 10 for users. And then you've got a letterboxd average of 3.5 stars, which is sort of like as you'd expect, really. But just want to chuck in some like a good positive one first, I guess. Let's start off on a high note.
Yeah, definitely.
This was watched by Zachary Hall, 15th July 2018, so quite a recent review. He gave it 5 stars, just a nice one-line review. One of the most under-acknowledged, underappreciated, underrated movies of all time. So I think Zach's got at the reasoning for our pod on the nose there.
Zachary, my man.
Yeah, so it's very much underrated, I think, definitely.
I agree. And I love the fact that through doing this pod, if I hadn't been doing this pod, I wouldn't have had the treat that this was. Can I tell you what my favourite thing about this film was? Just very quickly.
Go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I've really liked. I like the time travel conceit in movies. I quite like it, but sometimes I steer clear because it makes my head hurt.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I was always bothered with the concept of infinity. Like my dad said to me when I was about 10, he said, do you know what bothered me when I was a young man? The concept of infinity. The fact that something could go on and on and on and never reach a boundary. And I thought, like, yeah, Dad, I wasn't bothered about that before, but I am now. And it's like, so now the concept of infinity is something that sort of bothers me. And the fact that time is as a straight line can be messed around with. Now, in so many time travel films and stories, the people that go back in time are always told, don't meet up with your earlier self because you'll mess up the time-space continuum or whatever, Don't interfere with events that are already going on. And in this, they're literally going back and forth, either murdering each other or having babies with each other. They are going back. There's no boundaries to what it is that they can do with their former, future, past, present selves. I really like that.
I love
because
that.
it poses so many possibilities for me in a narrative sense.
Yeah, there's some big questions going on here, isn't there?
Yeah.
About the nature of fate and destiny, and you can always make a choice at any point in this. So I think what potentially people might struggle with this film is, and we've sort of touched on it here while we've been trying desperately to talk about the plot, is there isn't a beginning, a middle, or an end. There is in terms of the film starting, but it's a time loop.
Yeah.
And it's always chicken and the egg, which they talk about, and always the snake continuously eating itself forever.
Yeah. Infinity.
Yeah, it was like that old episode. There was an episode of Red Dwarf where because Lister was abandoned under a pool table, and there was an episode later on where Red Dwarf got really sci-fi. The more it went on, the more sci-fi it got. And it turned out good. It turned out that he delivered himself to under the pool table to do, and there was an image of a snake eating its own tail and blah blah blah, and that just reminded me of that. Of that. Watching that, and I was like, "Oh, it's that episode of Red Dwarf. Brilliant."
Can we just try, for the purposes of continuing the discussion, just to nail this on the head? Yeah. Can I have a go at this? Because I'm the thicko of the group. I'm the real dense one when it goes. I didn't understand Speed Racer, so I need some help there. So, right, the bar scene. Ethan Hawke is an agent. The unmarried mother comes in. She goes back in time, I'm already messing this up. She is a he who goes back in time to impregnate herself, and then she has a baby, which is her, who Ethan Hawke, as the agent, goes back in time to steal, and then becomes her. I'm losing it. I was so close. I was so close. And then it's revealed that Ethan Hawke is actually all of them.
Yeah.
Who is just there to perpetuate this motion because he's on the lookout for the Fizzle Bomber, who we've not mentioned yet, who's the MacGuffin, essentially, isn't it? I think, the film isn't really about the Fizzle Bomber whatsoever. It's a plot device to keep us moving
to add a thriller element to the film.
Yeah,
exactly, by the way, the Fizzle Bomber is also Ethan Hawke.
Oh yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and then it's revealed that when he finally does all that, and Ethan Hawke has this horrible moment where he's got to steal a baby.
That's him,
and he steals the baby from the man that
the
he's
baby
befriended.
is that him as a baby.
That's him.
Yeah.
The baby that's him.
That's a girl.
And the woman that's him as well. And then Ethan Hawke goes into a laundrette. He's finally caught the Fizzle Bomber, and then that's him as well. So the entity who these people play is all the same entity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did I get this?
Yeah, you've got it. Yeah.
That was my head exploding.
What going on in my head was the 5 takes of the Jeep blowing up in Hard Target.
As complicated as it all sounds, the thing I really loved about this film, and it's because it sort of flouted common rules regarding paradoxes in time travel movies.
Absolutely.
Because there's all these rules of a paradox in a time travel movie. We need to remember that time travel isn't real, right? So
that's
it's
true.
all
that is
theoretical.
True.
It's all theoretical. So you can kind of do what you want.
Yeah.
Now, I love time travel movies. They're amazing as much as they make my brain hurt. Like, I love Looper. Looper's one of my favourites.
This is very similar to Looper in that sense.
It is quite similar to, but something as like even Back to the Future, say, which is a family film.
Yeah.
That has quite complicated time travel in it, which does have a lot of plot holes in it, Back to the Future, when you actually unpack it. But I thought the reason this was so good is it was written so tightly and so smartly was that it did actually make sense. And I didn't think the twist, although they hit you in waves, you kind of clocked in that moment just before it was revealed.
Yeah.
Well, I thought anyway. So it wasn't necessarily a, holy shit, whoa, whoa. It was a, hang on a minute. And then it was revealed and you're like, oh my God, it's true. And yeah, I just think it was easy, as difficult as it is if you sort of sit down and try and write out or explain it as you tried to do, Rob. In the sense of the film, it did all make sense and it was easy to sort of follow, which is quite difficult for a time travel film.
You're right. I never thought about that. Because if they did it all, and they spaced out those revelations quite nicely, so that you could actually come to terms with them before being hit over the head with it all at once and then be left leaving the movie going, oh my God. So I actually left the movie thinking like, wow, they really played with my expectations and surpassed them in every single way. And not only that, but I kind of got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas, I could have just left the cinema and gone like, I don't know what I've watched. I've no idea. Who was that? Like that. So it's a testament to the story, the filmmakers, and the script.
Yeah, you have to pay attention, but if you do pay attention, it is easy enough to follow.
Yeah.
It's just that some of the revelations coming at you are so, like, out there.
And massive.
So what? He went back in time and after becoming a man and being told that he could create that he was no longer shooting blanks, he went back and met himself when he was a girl, and then that's who they both fell in love with because neither experienced love at any point in their life.
Yeah.
But it asks so many questions. I mean, so did that shock you first watching? I mean, this was the first watch for you, Si, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Second or third, maybe, for you, James? Maybe.
Yeah, probably third or fourth, I think, yeah.
Cool. Well, when he went back in time, that first time you watched it, and Sarah Snook playing him at that point, and he said, like, right, she's going to be outside the building, and she bumped into herself.
Yeah.
He bumped into herself. I'm not being insensitive by messing around here. It's just because I find it so hard to follow, with the programs that I'm using.
So the unmarried mother bumps into Jane.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah. That does help a lot. Yeah. That moment really broadsided me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, what? Really? And then you knew what was going to happen. Like, oh no, I wasn't ready for that at all.
That's what I mean about the reveals kind of come in the moment before it's actually plainly revealed.
Yeah.
It gives you a head start to figure it out because as soon as the unmarried woman bumps into Jane, And then it's that repeat of what you've seen earlier when she meets that mysterious man who disappeared in the night. You're like, I've wrote this in my notes, in capital letters as well. Holy fucking shit, she is the man who got her pregnant. Type that furiously. Like, oh my God. And then it becomes clear because the unmarried woman is there to kill the person who
of course,
deserted her when she was Jane. And then as soon as that moment happens, you're like, oh shit. And then that's the first of many twists and turns, which
big revelations,
steadily hit you in waves, and I just think it's really well done.
It is, yeah. I think what we should explain as well. So the unmarried mother wants to kill the person who impregnated Jane because the reason that she ended up having the gender assignment was not by choice. She was impregnated by this mysterious man who we later learn is the unmarried mother. She has the baby. During the course of having the baby, she wakes up, having a baby's no joke. My wife will attest to that.
Raise my glass.
Yeah. And basically she's been told that she's had a C-section. They've got the baby out, but there was some complications. So she's had a hysterectomy and had her ovaries removed. And also, while they're in there, they found that she's actually intersex. So she's got both male and female reproductive organs on the inside. And they've told her that they're now going to be changing her into a man and she's going to have a penis moving forward.
Yeah. It's kind of enforced, isn't it? Because they just take out the woman organs of her. Now, am I right in thinking that the reason Jane did have two male and female internal reproductive systems was because it was like a bit of an incestuous thing,
interesting,
because he impregnated herself. This is so confusing.
She, when she later becomes a man, has sex with herself, and then
we're making it sound so much more complicated.
No, we're not, because I'm following this.
We're making it sound like grosser than it actually is.
No, we are actually,
because it's not portrayed as gross at all in the film.
No, because it's portrayed
sweet,
so sensitively. It is, and there's so much going on here about fate. When the unmarried mother goes back as a man, and he can't help but follow the fate that's already set in motion. Because I'm thinking like, well, surely he doesn't have to go back and impregnate herself, but fate obviously throws a curveball, and it happens anyway. He has to do it.
Yeah.
I love that aspect of the film, of the idea of things being inevitable and not being in control of your fate. I do think if there is a criticism to level at not just this film, but films like that in general, because it's in a film, it's so easy to just go, this person didn't choose to shoot herself. She decided to fall in love with him. And it's just quite easy.
Yeah.
Whereas in your own human mind, you're going, you wouldn't do that, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So it is quite an easy criticism to level at it. Not to say that I did think that, because there are negative reviews out there, which we'll touch on shortly, from users and critics. And that's, for me, that was the one what sort of stuck out. It's quite convenient that there's these obvious choices Jane, the barkeep, the unmarried mother have, which they conveniently don't choose to go against. But then it depends how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah, and I love the way you mentioned with your human mind, Si. With our human mind, that seems very strange that you would go back, and if you were entrusted to kill somebody and you realise that somebody was yourself because of all the hurt you're going to inflict on yourself. There's also the other thing that, have any of you guys used that app or it was like really popular on Facebook for maybe 2 years ago, where you take a picture of yourself and it makes you into a female?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I never saw that. I saw my version of it, me as a female. I never thought like, I won't mind impregnating her. So it wouldn't, like when the unmarried mother goes back, like he sees a female version of himself and he thinks like, oh yeah, right on.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound like something I would think, to be honest.
But at that point, is it because Ethan Hawke, the barkeep, and the unmarried mother, they're all the same person, but they're not at the same time because of the things that have happened to them through the course of their lives? And they both fall in love with that earlier version of themselves because it's unrecognisable to the people that they are at this stage.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's almost,
and I think as well,
it's not to do with gender, if you like, because you could go, ew, they went back and they fucked themselves. Like, it's gross. Like if you wanted to do a really crude reading of it, but I don't think that's what they're going for at all. It's like...
No, not at all. And it's not played like that in any way whatsoever. Now I'm thinking about like if this was handled by the team behind Click. He went back in time. Oh yeah, the lovely boobies. Whoa.
Well, imagine this takes place in the Click universe and Adam Sandler's assistant who has the gender reassignment treatment is actually the unmarried mother.
Yeah. Hard target Jeep going off.
On the DVD commentary, the directors are going, one of our main inspirations was the Adam Sandler vehicle Click from 2004.
Oh, fuck you, Click.
Stranger things have happened. So I like that. Like unanimously. I mean, those numbers for critical reception are high across the board, and they're usually what you'd find in like a really well revered box office hit, aren't they?
Yeah.
But this never found the audience for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think partly because it's an Australian film. I guess.
But it's got an American movie star in it, so it's like.
I know, yeah, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not box office. Ethan Hawke, like he's not Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or whatever. He can't open a movie unless it's like this sort of specific sort of low budget film that he seems attracted to. I mean, I think this sort of covers off everything within his filmography, really, in terms of it's got the originality, it's low budget, it's got elements of horror to it as well. Which is something else that he's done quite a bit of as well. It's just I think what's happening is when people find the movie, they assume that because it never had any fanfare or, just disappeared out of cinemas maybe after a couple of days or a week or something and went straight to DVD, that they then assume it's just going to be a load of direct-to-DVD rubbish, a la Jean-Claude Van Damme. Sorry, Rob.
Right. Don't talk about my client in that way. My 12% from Van Damme is very valuable.
But then they watch it and they see that it's like a really well-crafted, unbelievably ambitious time travel parable about identity and fate and destiny and the choices that we make and how time actually changes a person. So who you are when you're in your 40s, early 50s, as Ethan Hawke is not the same as when you were a teenage girl. Oh, God, it's all falling apart.
But that's what it is. This is ambitious. This is ambition.
It is ambitious, but it's restrained ambition, I think.
That's a nice expression.
Yeah, they tell the story, but do it in a way where it can be told in a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, the themes and the ideas and the questions that it poses are ambitious, whereas, obviously due to budget constraints, there's only one action sequence in this film, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a shootout between 2/3 people.
Yeah.
The
one at the start, the opening little fight
that they call back to later on.
Which then, and then a bit of hand-to-hand combat. It's just the same sequence, isn't it, basically? Twice.
Where I have to say, during that sequence, so we're with Ethan Hawke, the middle Ethan Hawke, and he was pretty shit as an agent, isn't he? He shoots like a stormtrooper, can't hit his future self. Sorry, at this moment we don't know, it's the Fizzle Bomber. Can't shoot him for shit. And then he has a hand-to-hand combat where he gets absolutely battered.
Which always confused me, because when he actually catches up with the Fizzle Bomber later on, who is his older self, who's gone absolutely insane, which there's nice little clues towards that throughout. So one of the rules of the film, it does have certain time travel rules in the sense that too many jumps through time can cause psychosis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's sort of the justification for him becoming the Fizzle Bomber towards the end. Now, what I wanted to pose here, are there any other agents, or is he the only agent? So if you're talking from a time travel perspective, if you've got one person who can travel back in time and they're constantly relaying the tracks, so abducting the baby and putting her 20 years from her birth date into 1945, then you don't need other agents, do you?
Yeah, that's true.
If it's just going to keep looping round.
If you can go to any point in history at any time, yeah.
Yeah, there's not much of a sort of broad reason for it, is it, other than this solo story?
Because how would they recruit the other agents?
Oh, yeah.
Because he recruits himself, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, it's like, let's say like Looper, where it's obvious it's a bunch of agents. Well, they're not agents, are they? They're hitmen. But you don't get that at all with this. I mean, you've got Noah Taylor and there's those two suited guys at the start.
Yeah,
so you get an idea it is some sort of organisation.
Yeah.
They just sort of gloss over it.
Yeah. I just like the idea of him. He's like, it's sort of intimated at that this fizzle bomber is the reason, and him chasing the fizzle bomber through time is the only reason that this agency has been created in the first place and why it exists. And I just like the idea that he's just going back and doing all these various missions and he's the only agent, and now I'm hurting my own head.
No, it does hurt your head thinking of that.
Is it he's the only agent because he's the only one because he saves loads of people's lives, doesn't he, by stopping other mass things what we don't see. We only see sort of reference to them in newspaper clippings and things like that. But again, is that just I don't know. I think we're going well too far into the abyss.
We can't get back.
But the film does make you ask questions like this, and it goes back to what I was saying before about infinity. When the possibilities are endless, where does your brain stop? Because it doesn't have to. And in this, like you say, James, and Sai as well yourself, you're saying that you can pick any point in time, anywhere, at any moment in history and go back and change whatever. Do you really need any more agents? Because you can just pick what time you send that agent back. What moment? Exactly, do you need any other ones?
Yeah.
It's a scrambler. Oh, it is a proper scrambler.
We've gone beyond the realms of the page with this one.
No, but it was always going to go that way. Right, I'm going to pull it back to something a bit simpler. So, I mean, obviously it seems we've taken a lot of positives from the film, but we know that other people might not have felt that way going off the Metacritic scores. Sai, have you got any choice nuggets of negativity for us from the critic websites?
Yeah, it's a straight. I mean, I think sci-fi is the most polarizing of genres anyway. So naturally, you're going to get two extremes of the spectrum. We've got some really good sort of positive reviews, but in terms of the critics, there's quite a couple of odd negative ones, I think.
I mean, even the negative reviews aren't that negative. They always find no one's, apart from a few...
No one smashed it to pieces.
A few user reviews, people were just like, oh, it's rubbish. It's not helpful at all. For the most part, I think even in the negative reviews, from what I've read, they've managed to find some positivities within there, whether it's just the scale of the ambition of the idea that they're going for, or Sarah Snook has been praised to the hilt, which is absolutely spot on because she is phenomenal, and I don't think we can stress that enough within that.
Agreed.
She is great. Yeah, there's another one from Jim Shembry from 3AW. A dog's breakfast of clashing ideas and concepts. It's confused and confusing, and more it tries to untangle itself, the deeper it digs itself into an incoherent whole. Which I just think that's a case of someone not paying attention.
I think must have watched it while messing around on a smartphone or something. I don't, or trying to do something else. I think that description there in that review is of a film that this could have been if it was less competently handled.
Yeah. I think it comes down to the paradoxes, to be honest. If your internal logic will not allow you to get on board with the amount of paradoxical events going on within the course of the narrative, then you're just not going to connect with the film at all. I think if you try and apply logic and real life expectations to this sort of story, you're trying to apply logic to something completely illogical. It's fantasy at the end of the day.
And it's all theoretical, and there's no, while time travel has its physics rules.
Yeah.
Apparently.
You still have to give it a bit of leeway to stuff.
And you can sort of do what you want.
Of course you can. I mean, exactly. But ultimately, this is in the same category as Gandalf going over the bridge to the Balrog and shouting, "You shan't pass." It's in the same thing. You shall not pass. Yeah. Incidentally, someone should have said that to the unmarried mother when she went back. The only thing that I don't think we've covered so far in this one, gents, is the score and soundtrack. I can't really remember too much, if I'm completely honest, but whatever it was used very sparingly.
Yeah, I think it had, again, because it's sort of like a film that's split into two, it sort of had like a more traditional kind of score in the first 45 minutes where we're finding out all the unmarried mother's backstory. And it's much more of a sweeping kind of orchestral sort of score, if I remember correctly. And then when Ethan Hawke utters the line to her after utters the line to the unmarried mother. Sorry, I keep referring to her as her. I don't mean to keep doing that. It's just confusing.
No, it is confusing enough. It's not, like I said before, Jay, it's not insensitivity.
Yeah.
It's just the plot of this film it's hard enough to unravel while trying to get the pronouns
and because
right.
I'm just so conscious that Sarah Snook is playing the male version of herself as well.
Exactly.
When I'm saying her, I mean Sarah Snook.
Yeah.
So basically, I've done it again. Right. Basically, the unmarried mother finishes the story and Ethan Hawke says, "Not bad," goes back to the bar. And then he says to the unmarried mother, "If I could put the man who ruined your life in front of you, would you kill him?" And then from there, the movie suddenly switches and goes from this quite sensitive sort of drama that it's been for the first 40 minutes or so. And the score shifts as well. All of a sudden you get this sci-fi propulsive sort of time travel type theme it's a bit by the numbers, but it gets the job done, essentially.
Yeah. Well, there's so much going on that you don't really need the score to give you any pointers.
And I think that's pretty much running in the background for most of the sequences then. So it's not too intrusive at all. It's just sort of running as a bed underneath the action.
Yeah.
There's one song, there's one needle drop, isn't there, on the jukebox in the bar?
Oh yeah.
You know, according to the good old IMDb trivia page, we love that reference point. It apparently plays a 1947 song, "I'm My Own Grandpa," which obviously foreshadows the sort of final plot twist. And actually, I think a second watch I'm looking forward to giving it a second watch because I'm sure that whole bar scene is just full of foreshadowing. Like I remember,
it must be, yeah.
One of them, I remember the signs for the gents and ladies toilets was so prominent in the background that I want to watch it again and just see where they, because that must
there'll be loads of clues. There are loads of clues,
much.
Well, right at the start when Ethan Hawke gets his face reconstructed. And he looks in the mirror for the first time after the bandages come off, and he says, "My own mother wouldn't even recognise me."
Yeah,
and that's the foreshadowing, of course.
Oh yeah.
So it's all littered throughout. So just to sort of wrap the film up, so Ethan Hawke, after laying the seed, so he takes baby Jane back to 1945, so that the sequence could start all over again.
Yeah.
And then obviously she'll grow up, and the rest of the film will happen. He retires to 1974. New York, and when he gets to his destination, he goes to decommission his time machine, and it doesn't decommission, which then gives him the opportunity to hunt down the Fizzle Bomber. So he tracks the Fizzle Bomber down, and it turns out that it's him. And he basically tells him that the cycle will start again if he kills him, or the two of them can sort of be together. Essentially, he's gone completely insane, and he feels like the bombings that he's doing is stopping other atrocities.
Yeah.
Anyway, younger Ethan Hawke kills mentally unhinged Ethan Hawke, and we're left then with the question of, is he going to go on and become the Fizzle Bomber? And then it's sort of intercut in between Sarah Snook and Ethan Hawke as they go on their respective journeys, him through retirement and her starting out as an agent.
Yep.
And then at this point, it is revealed that through the scarring from the amount of surgeries that the character has undergone over the years for the gender reassignment, that they are in fact the same person.
Yeah.
And then it just ends.
On that bombshell.
Yeah,
it's a literal bombshell. Yeah, I really like the fact that, given the opportunity, Ethan Hawke waxed himself. No, not as in himself, but he shot the Frizzle Bomber.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant waxed himself for the reveal of the scars on his naked
No,
chest.
no. Which I'm assuming he did as well. Yeah.
Which there is a little bit of a plot hole there in that sense, because he's had his entire face reconstructed, so now he looks like gorgeous Ethan Hawke and not like some burnt monster. Could they not have removed the scarring from his body at the same time?
Maybe was it there, to always remind him of his
possibly,
central purpose, which is to just keep that cycle going.
Of exactly who he is, yeah.
Yeah. No, I liked all of that. I liked the way it came together, and I liked the way when we got to the very end, you sort of knew where everyone was and everyone was going, and there was always that possibility, like you say, James, because I didn't know until you just said it, that, he could still go on and become the Fizzle Bomber.
Yeah, because you don't know if the Fizzle Bomber is lying to him or not.
Yeah, you've no idea.
I took that ending as he had broke the chain, but maybe he didn't.
Yeah.
I don't, because the fact that the time machine is supposed to be decommissioned, but it isn't, suggests that he can still travel around time.
Yeah. And too many jumps will lead to further psychosis.
Yeah.
Ooh. And then you have to wonder, is Robertson behind that? So Robertson's like the overseer of the agency. Does the Fizzle Bomber exist so that this agency can exist and they can sort of have these time travelers who go back and stuff? Because
that's the justification.
That's true.
Yeah.
But by that point, I'm half expecting, what's his name? Noah Thomas. What's his name?
Noah Taylor.
Noah Taylor. At this point, I'm expecting him to stand up and to open his top and reveal the same scarring as everyone else. Like, it was him. God,
that would have been crazy.
I know. And then now I'm expecting, like a post-credit scene of, the credits have rolled, and then we're faced with the back room at Bed Bath and Beyond, and Morty stands up, and Morty's got the scarring across his belly.
It's if people haven't listened to the Click,
the menu at the Red
if they haven't
Lobster.
listened to the Click episode, they're going to be so confused.
Go back and listen to the Click episode. All right.
Yeah, it's funny. It's good.
Yeah, good stuff. So, boys, what do you think? Predestination, For Your Reconsideration. What are you saying?
Well, obviously, I've picked this film. This was the third or fourth time that I've watched it. Even knowing the twists and the way that the story plays out. I still enjoyed it. I still think it's a really good piece of low-budget filmmaking, comparatively. It's not Dead Man's Shoes in terms of budget, but in terms of some of the bigger films that we'll look at over the course of the podcast, this is quite micro in its budget. I think they use the resources to get the absolute maximum out of that. It's well shot. It's clearly told, considering how convoluted the plot is. The reveals are good, but they give you enough cues and clues to figure them out beforehand if you want to. Ethan Hawke is reliable as ever, just doing his old... he's sort of the straight guy in this film, where all the madness sort of revolves around him. And Sarah Snook, who I haven't seen in anything... I have seen her in a Black Mirror episode now that I come to think of it, but I didn't realise it was her. She's phenomenal in this film, and the film's worth watching for her performance on its own. It's a real knockout performance.
Sweet. Si?
No, I would definitely recommend this. I'd not heard of this before James suggested it, so I was a bit going in. This is the first time I've gone into a film for this what I haven't seen previously. So, I loved it. I thought it was great. It was a really solid runtime. I love a film what's less than 2 hours long.
I'm with you.
That's pretty bad to say as a film lover. Sometimes when it's one evening and you've not got 2.5 hours to spare, you just want a nice, concise, economical film. I loved it for that. And to me, it felt like a pseudo Nolan movie. I don't think it was as good as like Memento.
No.
But I do think it certainly deserves to be in the same conversation as it. I think it's as good in terms of its twists and turns and its plot. It was very entertaining. I love the shift halfway through. Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. Sarah Snook was incredible in this. So good. My favorite bit was when she's having dinner with her past self, and it reminded me of Sam Rockwell in Moon, whereas he did the whole film acting with himself. She does that scene with it, and it's just great. She's Superb in it. Superb.
Justice for Snook. She's doing all right. She's having a good career, I suppose. I just think that she should be like in a big superhero franchise or something.
I think she's in the Star Wars franchise, isn't she? Emperor Snook? No, as in like it was one of the dark, like Lord Sidious or someone.
I think you'll find it Snoke.
Well, there we go. Another franchise trashed. I think to round out three glowing reports on this. Couldn't echo this more. Snook is an absolute revelation in this. In fact, I can't think of a more versatile performance I've seen in recent years. She's seamless in every bit of this film. And it's worth watching for that alone. And that's without considering the fact that this is a really, it's a high concept film delivered on a really small budget. They achieve their goals and do more with this material than films with 20 times the budget of this. So yeah, it's definitely would urge reconsider this one, give this one another look, and I think that's unanimous across the board. Am I right?
Consider it to start with. Yeah,
consider it to start with. Actually, this was so underappreciated that just consider it. So there goes another episode of For Your Reconsideration is in the can. If you want to get in touch with the show, we're on Twitter, For Your Reconsideration. Give us a follow. We're also on Letterboxd as Reconsider Pod, where you can check out the star ratings for each of the films we cover, and also what's coming up on future episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us and tell us how bad or how good, hopefully, we're doing, email us at reconsiderpod@gmail.com. And if you really feel like it, please give us a 5-star review wherever you saw us or listen to us. That will help more people discover us. So thank you very much for listening. Join us again soon. Say goodbye, boys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, and take it easy. We're off to go and find a time machine so we can go and impregnate our younger... We'll call it, because even I got lost in the conceit then. And I'm glad I didn't finish the sentence. Si, should we cut that at say goodbye, boys?
Let's do the bye bit again. Fuck yeah, that's funny.
Okay.
How exactly would we impregnate our younger selves, Rob?
I don't know. Because then I'm getting like, I'm not intelligent enough to make this joke.
Simon, all of this has to stay in.
I'll try that again. Say goodbye, boys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
I'm definitely using the original one.
No!